Hi everyone, I'm James George and this is Jonathan Woods, and I've got super exciting news. John has just joined EXP in London. Good afternoon, John. How are things in London?
Afternoon, yeah, really good. It's morning your end, and obviously a dreary, almost rainy afternoon here in London. But yeah, all good. Really good, James. It's actually great to speak with you again after so many years.
Yes, well, most agents know about EXP in the US. It's the fastest growing real estate company in the world now with 60,000 agents in over 14 countries. But EXP is still pretty new in the UK. So in this video, we're going to chat about why John left a successful full-time job in real estate, became self-employed and set up his own business. So John, tell us about your history in real estate, first of all.
Yeah, so I've been a estate agent since 2006, so pre-credit crisis. I think I was 23 back then. So as with most people, sort of fell into real estate. It wasn't something that I kind of planned having going to university to start into, but it was a great job, and started to do very well with it. Worked at a number of corporates at that time. There's a big, very well-known firm in London that drive minis. A lot of you UK viewers will know who they are. I spent a good 10 years there, and it was a great training ground. A lot of hard graft, long hours, but I had a whale of time. It was great. And then I moved on, worked for an investment firm, doing a lot of new build acquisition stuff. My background is lettings, but then obviously I've done a lot of sales side of things on my own portfolio. So I'm actually a private investor myself. And then I moved on to an associate director at a sort of a well-known South London family-run business. Sort of ran their sort of one of their flagship office really for 3 years. So yeah, so quite a lot of experience in London residential. But as I mentioned before, I invest myself. So my friend, sort of business partner, and I have built a modest portfolio across South London, which we continue to grow. And I've dealt with a lot of individual investors as well. So I think it's something which I have a bit of a passion for.
As well. And the funny thing is we both went to school together.
We certainly did, yeah.
Yeah, in Salisbury, in England.
Exactly.
Long time ago, quite scary how long ago it was.
And then 20 years ago.
Yeah, and we've obviously the great thing about social media and Facebook is you keep in contact with old school friends. And we both realized that we were in real estate, and we start asking each other questions about, how is it different, especially you asking me questions, seeing how things are different in the US compared to the UK. And then, yeah, we started chatting about EXP, and obviously most people won't know about it, but there's a big difference in real estate in the US compared to the UK. In the US, we have a different model. We have like 2 different agents in a transaction. We have a selling agent and a buying agent, whereas in the UK, you just have a selling agent. Also, commission's completely different. A seller in the US will pay between 5 to 6% in fees.
Wow.
Whereas you're not going to get a seller to pay that in the UK, that's for sure. What is it normally, around 1.5%, John?
Yeah, I mean the max you're going to get 2.5. I think it's the highest I've seen anyone go for.
Yeah.
And that's anything normally is 1.5 to 2 for most premium decent agents. You'll get some bargain basements that will go sub 1.
And the funny thing is because of that, I find there is a big difference in the marketing and how real estate agents go about selling the property. I mean, one of the things that I noticed, even looking at homes in the UK on websites and stuff, I find that the photos generally aren't as good, especially when you get like, the $1 million real estate agent here compared to $1 million real estate agent, £1 million real estate agent. Just the photos and the marketing and the effort that goes into it. I generally find that the US is generally a higher standard in real estate agent. Why? I think it's pretty obvious why. We get paid way more for it. So we've got more of a marketing budget that we can throw at that. And I think one of the things that I think me and John are going to chat about is if we can bring a lot of what the US does well and bring it to the UK, I think that will really help. And don't get me wrong, everything that happens in the US, you can't just bring to the UK. Let's face it, two different countries, different people. But there's definitely things that each country can learn from each other. And the EXP has grown around the world now. And what they have done is they've adapted the business plan depending on the UK. So why did you leave your real estate, full-time job that gave you a good income? Most people, are very scared to set up their own business. Why did you join EXP, and why did you join EXP and not set up your own, your own real estate company?
Well, so it goes back to what you were just saying then, firstly, about sort of the fee point and about the amount that people can invest in their marketing. It's not just about the fee, it's also about what that individual agent takes from that transaction. Because the thing is that with the majority of high street UK agency, it's transactional. It's about selling as much as you can, not really just selling your home, but just selling a home. And it's also because the individuals that are doing the majority of the work are getting such a small proportion of the commission. So, if you're looking at an individual negotiator, they will take 10% of that transaction, and then 90% of it will go to the firm. So really, you're not taking much of that pie. And I think when you start to see, and I think, there's a couple of shows that are coming to the UK that people will start to see how the American model works. You've got started off with $1 million listing, and then this really popular selling sunset.
That's one of the reasons I got into real estate was watching $1 million listing. Yeah.
And you watch it and you think, and you see some of the commission levels, and you're like, wow, that's incredible. How can an individual take that much from it? And I think all of us have sort of thoughts, or not all of us, but lots of us have thoughts in the back of our mind about, we like to be our own boss, we'd like to run our own time. That sort of dream and fantasy of running your own business. But then when you look at it and reality hits home, and you look at what's invested, and you look at the money you need for the startup, and you think, goodness me, it's not possible. Well, the EXP coming along actually makes it possible. And it makes it possible for people to start their own agency. Yes, you're going to have to invest money into something. You can't start a business with nothing. But the biggest barriers in the UK to starting up, one is premises costs, which of course you don't need with remote marketing as we do. But more importantly, it's access to the portals, because Rightmove and Zoopla have a real stranglehold on our marketplace, and are extremely expensive to start marketing on. We're talking thousands of pounds a month just for your market budget before you even start selling anything. And that's just the list. So what's great with EXP is that they enable you to do that. Of course, you're going to have to fund yourself for a little bit of time to get set up. And I think anyone that thinks they're going to start a business without investing some money is crazy. But they really give you that sort of leg up. You've got all of the things that you need as an agent. So you've got your CRM systems, you've got guidance on marketing, you've got website build, and more importantly, you've got direct access to both of those portals, Rightmove and Zoopla. And that's the big thing, that you can, if you've got people that if you've got clients already, whatever you can set up, you've got direct access to those portals from the outset, and can start listing and selling straight away off the bat.
Yeah, one of the great things about EXP as well is the fact that they have an EXP World, so you can go in there, and they have training sessions every day. And the top agents, you become icon status. In order to be able to get icon status, you need to give back to the other EXP agents. So there's constant training in the EXP World.
Yeah,
so if you haven't done, if you've got no experience in marketing before, you can go into that platform and find out from some of the people who are, selling billions of pounds and dollars in different currencies around the world, and listen to them and talk about how they marketed themselves to become really successful. Also, things like they ran a competition on, the best listing presentation. So when you go and you meet a potential seller, loads of people entered their presentation for everyone to see, and then the person won a prize. So you can really learn from people that are more successful from you. And what I love about it, it's a real collaborative environment. So the reason why, me and Jonathan are going to work together in the future, Jonathan joined underneath me. So I'm going to be earning a percentage of the commission that John earns. So I'm incentivized.
Just to add to that, though, it's not from what I earn, it's from what EXP earns. So it's not.
That's true. Yeah.
No, Jones isn't taking anything from me at all.
No,
So
I don't take it from you.
no.
You pay a small fee each for a few transactions over to EXP, and I earn a percentage from that, which is great because rather than like the big CEOs of these companies taking all the money and loads of middle management taking the money, and you've been, as you say, you being left with this small little bit at the end commission that you got, you're keeping most of the money that you earn, and that small amount that goes to EXP, I get a tiny portion of that. So I'm incentivized to help you grow your business. So you have this real collaborative environment. So rather than me being in competition with you, John, we're going to work together, which is great because obviously everyone's different. Everyone has different strengths and different weaknesses. And so I'm really looking forward to, using a lot of what I've learned in the US, and we can use that and help grow across the UK, which is fantastic. And one of the things that I wanted to chat about was, how's the market right now? You've set up this new business. It's this big, quite scary thing, setting up your new business.
Yes.
How's the market right now?
Well, do you know what? It's interesting, really, because London went through a very long stagnation period, and we're talking about the sales side of things here. The lettings is a slightly different market, which I do both. It's sort of an experience on both sides. But for the sales market, back in 2016, we had this wonderful thing, or non-wonderful, inverted commas, Brexit, which is still sort of ongoing, and it's the fallout of that is still being felt with our petrol crisis, which you may have seen. But what that caused was a stagnation of people waiting for 4 years until we finally got an announcement that it's all going through, and then coronavirus comes along, puts all the brakes on that for ages. Finally, we're starting to come out of the back of that, and really we're starting to see, I think we're at the start, that we are at the upward curve of recovery. Houses at the moment, a friend of mine has put a couple of houses over in East London. They literally had 40 people inquiring them the day they went live. So we're really starting to see that recovery, which is fantastic, and we really need it because everywhere in the UK has had a fantastic last 12 months, and you'll probably read about it. There's 10-15% growth in some areas outside of London. London didn't get that, mainly because of the lack of international buyers. But once that we start to open our borders, which is now happening, they've got rid of a lot of the sort of restrictions that we have. We've still got a couple of things that are in place, but in the majority, I think the US border is about to open as well.
November, finally.
November. No, it's that's really sort of affects Central London. And I've heard from colleagues and friends that work in the central sphere. I work in Southwest London. That recovery is really starting to take hold in Central London, which is great. Lettings, it's absolutely flying. I mean, there's such a chronic lack of supply of investment. And sorry about my young son in the background there, if you can see him.
Don't worry, this is the world we live in.
It's the world we live in, it certainly is.
Funny thing is, 2 years no one would understand that. Now everyone understands that.
Yeah, I know. I remember back in the day, you see that one chap where he had his sort of son or daughter coming on the walker. But no, lettings is absolutely flying. There's so many people that need it. And it's just absolutely, so many tenants and so little stock to go around that, the prices are going up exponentially. And I think it's a great market to be in.
What do you think about the market in the UK long term? Because we're starting to see a shift here, as you say, randomly. I don't know how, but the market just went crazy in the US. Interest rates dropped for them to try and protect the market. They dropped interest rates, and what that meant is everything went. And the funny thing is shares went up. Cryptocurrency went up. Everyone is rich in the US, it seems. It's ridiculous how much money there is. And so house prices just jumped. We're starting to see a slight shift, and it's going to be interesting because we always see a shift this type of year anyway, because people, are pretty much everywhere around the world. The busiest time of the year is often the springtime going into the summer, because people need to move for schools. People, and that often makes a big difference. And people need to move for jobs. Obviously, people weren't moving for jobs because everything was being remotely. So there was no inventory, interest rates low, loads of buyers, house prices rise. We're starting to see a shift. Do you think we're going to see a shift long term in the UK? You know, obviously there's other implications, there's Brexit and all sorts, but what do you see might happen in the next couple of years in the UK real estate?
So I think outside of London, I can't really comment. I'm not a UK expert, but within London, my feeling is it feels very similar to 2009, 2010. And that was when we were coming out of the credit crisis. There was, you know, a sentiment of sort of people being unsure about what's going to happen in the future. But for those of you that were working in the industry in London in 2012 and 13, you'll remember days when there was 50, 60 people lining up at doors waiting to get into open houses. And what was that reason? The reason for that at the time was the turning on of the mortgage market and people then getting confidence to start to buy. And I think we are at that present time. And I think next year will be the floodgates will open. I think we'll have coronavirus behind us. You know, people will have spring in their step. And I think that, you know, London has weathered the storm. I think, you know, you've got the city hasn't collapsed and decamped to Frankfurt. You know, people want to live in London. Our tourism is starting to come back. You know, central London looks cheap and money flows downhill. Yes, we've had migration, but there's always migration of people leaving London. You know, the media will make it out that every family in the whole of South London, for example, has left and gone to the home counties and out into the country because of work from home. But one thing I'll say is that every single house that's gone on the market that's sold where a family has left, someone else has bought it. And they are all people who are young couples.
Not like you're walking down the street and there's loads of empty homes. The funny thing is we have the same thing in California. Probably more people have left California than ever with what's happened. And it wouldn't surprise me if we get more people leave. But for every person that leaves, there is a long line of people trying to get in. And it's very similar to London. London's a very cool, trendy place, great place to live, great place to have a career. So you're always, every person who's going to leave, you're always going to get a line of people trying to come in.
We look at the streets and houses. We were talking to a friend of ours who stayed, and we were one of the families that have stayed and haven't left. And she was saying that, you know, 7, 8 houses on her street have sold, and they've all been bought by young couples who were things like myself and my wife 7 years ago before we had children. We bought the house because we were having children in a year or two's time, because of the good schools, because of the location, because of the fact that we wanted to live a good life in London and start a family. And now we will leave at some point. As everyone does in the end. Well, not everyone. If you're lucky enough to have a £2 or £3 million huge pad on in the toast rack with enough space, you might stay. But no, I think to answer your question, James, the market for me is poised to go in one way upwards.
Okay, that's really interesting to know. And the other thing, one of the things that's so different in the US and the UK is we can close a transaction in 1 week. The average transaction is probably 25, 28, 30 days.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about the UK is if someone wants to, what is the average length of a period of someone putting an offer in on a property and then it closing and you getting the keys? What would be the average length, do you think?
3 months minimum, I would say. Something like
wow.
That. I mean, we bought my last investment property we bought in Stratton. We went under offer in November 2020. November 19, sorry, and we exchanged in September 2020. That took 8 months to go through. Now, that was a little complex and various other things on it, but just a standard home purchase can take, 3-4 months to go through. And that's, a number of things I think slow in terms of conveyancing, but, there's a lot of very slow legal processes that need to be done. But there is a lot of friction there. I think a lot of firms have been trying to speed that process up. If we could close in a week or two on those things like you do, the speed, the flow would be so much better. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of the things
lettings deal you can do in 24 hours. We can do I think the fastest I've done a lettings deal is about 6 hours before. That can be done, instantly, very quick.
Obviously, one of the big things now for you running your own business is the fact that one of the differences that we've already talked about with the US and the UK is you're really going to care about. I mean, obviously you care about every client anyway, but you're going to care even more about every single client, because when you run your own business, referrals is going to be a massive part of your business. And as you say, when you work for a brokerage, a real estate company, and you are paid, you have to you have this pressure to do a certain amount of transactions. So you get the transaction, you've got to try and close it, you've got to try and move on to the next one, move on to the next one, move on to the next one. But when you're in your own business, referrals is going to be a massive part of your company. And so you're really going to be building that relationship up with someone, not only during the transaction, but probably after the transaction as well. And so that's one of the main areas that's going to be completely different for you, John, compared to before. And which is a great thing for everyone, every seller, is the fact that you are going to be putting in probably more effort into every single home that you sell. Going to probably put in, you've got more budget to spend on marketing. So what do you think, what's going to be, your main plan in regards to selling a home now? What's going to be different than before?
The thing I was thinking about today, and look at, you take the example of independent businesses, big coffee shops, for example. You've got your Starbucks, you've got your Costa, your big corporations, you've got your McDonald's. I think certainly within my area of London, there's a lot of support for the local high street and wanting to support the local business owner because they can take the time, because they've got an artisan product, or that they've just got that independence. And I think that's the way I kind of look at independent agencies such as my company and other people doing it versus your big corporates, because they are the McDonald's and the Starbucks of agency. And yeah, there are people, we've got a lovely coffee shop in Earlsfield, DeRosier, which you'll see the bus pull up and people will get off the bus, and there's an amazing coffee shop there, and they'll just walk straight across the road and go into Starbucks and buy over there. For some people, that's what they love. But I think for a lot of people want that personal level service. And by running a business, your own business, I'm vested in every single transaction, not only because I'm remunerated in a much more healthier way, but like you say, that business person will then become a client for life, be it in lettings and for sales, and they will tell people that you've had a good experience and then come to me on top of that. And then also you've got lots of just the feeling of being able to contribute to your community, finding people a home to live in, rather than just thinking, I've just got to sell something just to make some money to keep my boss happy as well. And when you're taking 10% of a deal, you don't really care very much, because you've just got to do more. And if one goes bad, doesn't matter, let's get another one. Doesn't matter, let's get another one. Whereas with this, if it goes wrong, it's gonna go very badly. So you're going to put everything into every sale. When you're investing your own money in marketing and photography, you're going to make sure that it's at the best possible level it can be. You're going to be there for that client at every step of the transaction.
As you say, it's those little details that make such a difference. Whereas before, you probably didn't have the time to analyze every single photo and decide what order the photos you're going to be in. And maybe if the photos weren't good enough, say, look, we need to get another photographer in to take the photos, to get drones to come in to do photo and video. It was just move on to the next deal. So I'm really excited to, bring the quality of the marketing in the US to the UK. And
I think it's very
London
impressive.
has some awesome properties. That's one thing we don't have here. We have incredible properties, but we have no history. And the history behind every property, and you showing off the history, will be really exciting as well.
I think there's one big thing as well, which is missed and a lot of corporates don't do, is social media marketing. There's absolutely just not enough time to do it. They say they'll do it, but they'll have a Facebook page, they'll have an Instagram page, but they're not going to showcase that individual person and spend the time putting that out to different people, representing it and launching it in a different way, because they're not putting all of their effort into one listing, or maybe 3 or 4 listings. KFH down the road, they've got over 100 listings, I believe, on the market. That's all they care about, is selling maybe 10% of that, not your home, to say here. And that's the way.
No, we have the same in the US. There's companies which the agent is paid a wage, and it's just turnover. And the truth is, if I go up against that particular company and that particular agent, I'm confident I'll get a higher price, and the seller will get walk away with more money. And that's one of the things that is massive. It's not how much percentage you pay someone, it's how much you walk away with at the end. I mean, you could pay 10% to someone, but if you make 15% more, you're actually making 5%. So yeah, I mean, John, it's been absolutely great chatting to you. We're going to chat monthly and do real estate videos every month. But if anyone is it just Southwest London that you cover at the moment?
So personally, yes, but I've got contacts all over London and all over the UK now, certainly through the XP network. So I always say, if anyone is looking to sell, buy, wants advice, there's always something I can help with. And if I can't help, someone else can. We just had an investor that was interested in buying land over in southeast, so towards Kent Way. I've got a very good counterpart down there, and we're doing a land deal down there. So yeah, I covered the whole.
Basically, anyone in the UK wants any real estate advice whatsoever, get on the phone, chat to John. You'll be happy to help. He's got so much experience and knowledge in real estate in London and the UK. And how are they best reaching out to you, John?
So phone 07498 214 463. You can go on my website as well, which is jonathanwoods.exp.uk.com.
Awesome. And it won't be long till I'm hoping that we could maybe do like an event in the UK or something, get a load of real estate agents together, do some masterminding, etc. So I really look forward to working with you in the future, John, and take care and have a great evening in London.
Likewise, James. Enjoy the rest of your day.